In the heart of Suffolk, England, lies Rendlesham Forest, a place shrouded in mystery and whispered legends. The towering pines stand like silent sentinels, their branches weaving a dense canopy that blocks out the moonlight. It was here, in the cold, damp nights of December 1980, that a series of extraordinary events unfolded, forever etching the name Britain's Roswell into the annals of UFO history. The air was heavy with anticipation, the ground slick with winter dew, as the forest seemed to hold its breath, waiting for something unimaginable to occur. On those fateful nights, American military personnel stationed at the nearby RAF Woodbridge base reported seeing strange, pulsating lights darting through the trees and hovering above the forest floor. These were men trained for discipline and vigilance, accustomed to the routines of military life, suddenly thrust into a situation that defied all logic. The base, usually a place of order and routine, was gripped by a sense of unease as word spread of the bizarre lights. The air was thick with tension as these men, prepared to face earthly threats, found themselves confronted by something utterly inexplicable. Among them was the deputy base commander, Lieutenant Colonel Charles Halt, a man known for his composure and leadership. He assembled a small team of trusted men, each one gripping a flashlight and a sense of trepidation, and led them deep into the woods to investigate. The forest floor crunched beneath their boots as they advanced, the only sounds their own breathing and the distant, unexplainable hum. Armed with flashlights and a tape recorder, they followed the eerie glow, documenting every strange sound and sight as they ventured further into the darkness. The tape captured their whispered conversations, the crackle of underbrush, and the mounting fear in their voices, as the lights seemed to move with intelligence, evading their pursuit. The incident quickly captured the attention of the media and investigators alike. Headlines screamed of UFOs over Suffolk, while official reports and secret files piled up, fueling speculation and debate. Journalists descended on the area, eager for any scrap of information, while military officials struggled to contain the growing frenzy. The men who witnessed the events were questioned repeatedly, their accounts scrutinized and dissected, yet the core of the mystery remained untouched. Decades later, the mystery endures. The forest remains silent, its secrets guarded by the ancient trees, and the memories of those who walked its paths that night. The questions linger, echoing through the pines. What did those men witness in the shadows of Rendlesham? Was it a secret military experiment, a misidentified aircraft, or something not of this world? The truth, hidden beneath the pines, continues to elude us, leaving behind only the chilling testimony of those who were there, and the enduring enigma of Britain's most famous UFO mystery. The mystery began just after midnight on December 26, 1980. The air was cold and heavy, each breath forming a pale mist that lingered in the stillness. The forest was shrouded in darkness, with only the faintest glimmer of moonlight filtering through the dense canopy, casting long, shifting shadows across the frozen ground. Every branch seemed to creak under the weight of the winter chill, and the silence was so complete that even the distant hoot of an owl was absent. On routine patrol near the perimeter of RAF Woodbridge, a group of security personnel moved with practiced caution, their boots crunching softly on the frosty earth. Suddenly, their attention was drawn to strange, pulsating lights descending into the heart of Rendlesham Forest. The lights flickered between the trees, casting eerie, shifting shadows and igniting immediate suspicion of a possible aircraft crash. The men exchanged tense glances, their training kicking in as they prepared to investigate the unknown. Sergeant Jim Peniston, Airman John Burrows, and Airman Ed Cabansag, all seasoned servicemen with years of experience, were dispatched to investigate. Their faces were set with determination, eyes scanning every shadow as they advanced deeper into the woods. The beam of their flashlights cut through the thick mist, illuminating the gnarled roots and tangled undergrowth. Each step was deliberate, the tension in the air growing with every passing moment. As they pressed forward, their radios began to malfunction, emitting only static and garbled voices. The silence of the forest was broken only by their tense breathing and the distant, unexplainable hum that seemed to vibrate in the air. Each man felt a strange charge, as if the very atmosphere was electrified, the hairs on their arms standing on end. The sense of isolation was overwhelming, as if the forest itself was holding its breath. Suddenly, the trees opened into a small clearing. There, hovering just above the ground, was a craft unlike anything they had ever seen. It was triangular, compact, and perfectly smooth, its black surface reflecting the colored lights that danced along its edges. The object glowed with an otherworldly radiance, illuminating the clearing in shifting hues of blue, red, and yellow. The men stood frozen, their minds racing to comprehend the impossible sight before them. Sergeant Peniston, driven by a mix of fear and curiosity, stepped closer. He could see strange symbols etched along the hull, glyphs that resembled hieroglyphics, glowing softly in the darkness. Reaching out, he pressed his hand against the surface. It was warm, almost pulsing with energy, and felt like polished glass beneath his fingertips. The symbols seemed to shimmer and shift, as if alive with some unknown power. Without warning, the craft's lights intensified, bathing the men in blinding brilliance. In a split second, the object lifted silently into the air, accelerating with impossible speed and vanishing among the stars, leaving only a faint afterglow in the night sky. The men shielded their eyes, stunned by the sheer power and silence of the departure. At dawn, investigators returned to the site. The clearing bore 3 distinct triangular impressions in the frozen earth, as if the craft had rested on landing gear. Nearby, the bark of several trees was scorched, and radiation detectors registered abnormally high readings. The air still carried a faint metallic tang, and the ground was marked by a pattern that defied explanation. Teams meticulously documented every detail, collecting soil samples and measuring the anomalies. The physical evidence matched the soldiers' account. Something tangible had landed in that forest. Every measurement, every photograph was carefully logged, the gravity of the event weighing on each investigator. The ground was disturbed, vegetation burned, and the marks left behind were unlike anything caused by known aircraft or vehicles. The soil was compacted in geometric patterns, and the scorched earth radiated outward from the impressions, as if exposed to intense heat. The men returned to base visibly shaken, their faces pale and eyes wide with disbelief. The incident sent ripples of alarm through the ranks, and the base was placed on heightened alert. Whispers spread among the personnel, each man wondering what they had truly witnessed in the woods. As the first light of dawn crept over Rendlesham Forest, the woods seemed forever changed, haunted by the memory of what had transpired. The mist clung to the ground, swirling around the trees as if reluctant to let go of the night's secrets. The clearing where the craft had landed remained eerily silent, the strange marks in the soil a stark reminder of the night's events. No birds sang, and the mist clung to the ground as if guarding the secret. The men who had witnessed the encounter found themselves drawn back to the site, unable to shake the feeling that something extraordinary had occurred. The physical evidence collected that morning would become the cornerstone of the case, fueling investigations and debates for decades to come. Every sample, every photograph, was scrutinized by experts, each man searching for answers in the data. For the men who witnessed the encounter, the memory was seared into their minds, a moment of awe and terror that would haunt them for the rest of their lives. Their testimonies, given in hushed voices, spoke of a night that defied all logic and reason. Rendlesham Forest had become the stage for Britain's most famous and perplexing UFO encounter, its secrets still echoing beneath the ancient trees. The story of that night would be told and retold, each detail examined by those determined to uncover the truth hidden in the shadows of the woods. On the following night, the sense of unease around the base only deepened. The air was thick with anticipation, and the darkness seemed to press in from all sides, broken only by the distant hum of military equipment and the occasional sweep of headlights along the deserted road. Every shadow seemed to stretch a little longer, every sound echoed with a strange intensity, as if the very landscape was holding its breath. As one of the officers, a seasoned man known for his composure, made his routine patrol near the perimeter, he felt a chill crawl up his spine. The forest loomed on either side of the narrow road, branches clawing at the sky. Suddenly, a blinding orb of light materialized behind his vehicle, so sudden and bright that it seemed to swallow the darkness whole. The orb hovered with unnatural steadiness, its glow pulsing and shifting in color, first a cold blue, then a searing white, casting eerie, dancing shadows across the dashboard and the officer's tense face. The orb began to follow, gliding silently at first, then accelerating with impossible speed. The officer's heart pounded in his chest as he pressed the accelerator, desperate to put distance between himself and the pursuing light. But the orb closed the gap effortlessly, its brilliance growing until it filled the rear window. In a panic, the officer jerked the wheel, sending the Jeep swerving off the road. The vehicle crashed to a halt among the trees, headlights flickering, and the officer stumbled out, breathless and wide-eyed, his boots crunching on the frosty ground. In a desperate attempt to defend himself, the officer drew his weapon, his hands trembling as he aimed into the blinding radiance. The silence of the forest was broken only by his ragged breathing and the low, electric hum emanating from the orb. The light was so intense that it seemed to vibrate in the air, kind of making it difficult to focus, as if the very atmosphere was charged with energy. This was no distant anomaly. This was a direct, aggressive encounter. The orb hovered mere meters away, its light so intense that the officer could barely keep his eyes open. He shielded his face with one arm, backing away slowly, every instinct screaming at him to run, yet his legs felt rooted to the spot by a mix of terror and awe. The orbs now seemed to interact with the personnel, responding to their movements and even approaching them, as if observing or testing their reactions. Soldiers on patrol reported seeing the lights weaving between the trees, darting just out of reach, sometimes splitting into smaller orbs that circled around groups of men before merging again into a single, blinding sphere. Throughout the base, fear and confusion spread rapidly. In the dimly lit barracks, men in uniform exchanged worried glances, their voices hushed as they recounted what they had seen. Tense discussions echoed through shadowy corridors, every man searching for answers, but finding only more questions. The incidents were no longer isolated. The strange lights had become a persistent, unsettling presence, an ongoing mystery that haunted every corner of the base. Each night, more soldiers gathered outside, watching the sky with a mixture of dread and fascination, knowing that whatever was out there was watching them in return. By the time the third night fell, December 28th, the atmosphere at the base was thick with anxiety and speculation. The previous nights had been filled with whispered conversations, nervous glances, and mounting unease. Reports of strange, inexplicable lights darting through the trees and odd mechanical noises echoing in the darkness had circulated among the men, growing more urgent with each retelling. The chain of command could no longer dismiss these accounts as mere tricks of the mind or overactive imaginations. The situation demanded a direct and authoritative response. Determined to confront the mystery head-on, Deputy Base Commander Lieutenant Colonel Charles Halt took charge. he handpicked a small group of trusted military personnel, men known for their discipline and composure under pressure. As the rest of the base watched from a distance, Holt and his team prepared for their mission, checking their equipment and reviewing the reports. Under the cloak of night, they slipped quietly into the dense, mist-shrouded forest, their boots crunching softly on the frosty ground. The only light came from their flashlights, which cast thin, wavering beams through the tangled undergrowth and swirling fog. Every step was measured, every sound amplified by the tension in the air. Holt's objective was clear: to investigate the reports firsthand, gather concrete evidence, and, if possible, put an end to the growing sense of unease that threatened to disrupt the base's operations. Lieutenant Colonel Holt was nothing if not methodical. He came equipped with a Geiger counter, a device designed to detect even the faintest traces of radiation, and a portable cassette recorder, its magnetic tape ready to capture every word and sound. As the team advanced deeper into the woods, Holt pressed the record button, his voice calm but edged with anticipation as he narrated their progress. The men listened intently, their senses heightened, as Holt described the landscape, the readings on his instruments, and any unusual sights or sounds. The cassette recorder became their silent witness, preserving every detail for later analysis. When the team reached the site where the strange lights had first been reported, Holt raised the Geiger counter and swept it slowly over the ground and surrounding trees. The device began to click rapidly, the sound growing louder and more insistent. The readings were far above the normal background levels, a fact that sent a ripple of unease through the group. The men exchanged glances, realizing that something truly out of the ordinary had taken place in this isolated patch of woodland. The evidence was not just visual or anecdotal, it was measurable, quantifiable, and impossible to ignore. Suddenly, the stillness of the forest was shattered. Strange lights appeared, weaving silently between the trees. The orbs glowed with an unnatural intensity, their colors shifting from white to blue to red, casting eerie shadows on the forest floor. The lights moved with a deliberate, almost intelligent purpose, gliding effortlessly through the branches and undergrowth. The men stood transfixed, their flashlights forgotten, as the orbs drifted toward a nearby field. The darkness was pierced by their glow, transforming the familiar landscape into something alien and unrecognizable. Throughout the encounter, Holt's cassette recorder captured every moment. The men's astonished reactions, the crackle of the Geiger counter, the hum of the night. At one point, a pulsing red light descended from above, hovering silently before sending down beams of energy that danced across the ground. One of these beams landed alarmingly close to the base's nuclear weapons storage area, a detail that would later send shockwaves through military circles. The men watched in stunned silence, aware that they were witnessing something that defied all conventional explanation. Then, in a sudden and breathtaking display, the main object split into 5 brilliant white lights. Each shot off in a different direction at incredible speed, vanishing into the night sky in a matter of seconds. The men could only stare in disbelief, their minds struggling to process what they had just seen. The forest, once again, fell silent, except for the faint whir of the cassette recorder, still documenting every second. The evidence gathered that night was undeniable. Holt's official memo, meticulously typed and signed, and the audio recording from the cassette became crucial pieces of documentation. Together, they provided a detailed, real-time account of the extraordinary events, complete with instrument readings, direct observations, and the unfiltered reactions of trained military men. Here was a high-ranking officer, methodically recording his observations as the events unfolded. His calm, authoritative voice on the tape left no doubt. This was not a case of mass hysteria or wild imagination, but a genuine encounter with the unknown. The men's professionalism and composure under pressure only added weight to their testimony. The incident was no longer just a rumor whispered among the ranks. It had become a matter of official military record, preserved in documents and tapes for future generations to examine. The investigation, rather than providing clear answers, only deepened the mystery, leaving those involved with more questions than before. The Rendlesham case quickly rose through the chain of command, reaching the highest levels of military leadership. What began as a strange light in the woods had escalated into a full-scale investigation, its implications echoing through the corridors of power and into the annals of history. For the men who witnessed it, that night would remain etched in their memories. A night when the boundaries of the known world were pushed to their limits. Years after the initial incident at Rendlesham Forest, a startling new account surfaced, one that would deepen the mystery and ignite fresh debate among investigators and enthusiasts alike. This account came from Larry Warren, a former serviceman who had been stationed at the base during those fateful nights. Warren's testimony would not only challenge the official narrative, but also introduce a far more complex and unsettling version of events. According to Warren, the third night of the Rendlesham events was far from quiet. While Colonel Halt and his team were deep in the woods, meticulously tracking strange lights and recording their observations, something even more extraordinary was unfolding just beyond their line of sight. Warren claimed that, in a nearby open field known as Capel Green, a much larger and more imposing craft descended from the sky. The field, bordered by the shadowy edge of the forest, became the stage for an event that would eclipse all previous sightings. Warren described the scene in vivid detail. He, along with several other airmen, including Steve Longero, stood rooted to the spot, their eyes fixed on a massive, luminous object that silently settled onto the ground. The craft was unlike anything they had ever seen. Its surface shimmered with an otherworldly light, and it was enveloped in a swirling colored mist that seemed to pulse and shift, casting an eerie, shifting glow across the field. The airmen, all in uniform, exchanged nervous glances, their faces illuminated by the strange radiance. According to Warren, the gravity of the situation was not lost on the military. High-ranking officers arrived on the scene, accompanied by a military film crew equipped with cameras and recording equipment. The men moved with urgency and precision, their every action suggesting that they had trained for such an encounter. Cameras were trained on the craft, capturing every moment as the object hovered, then slowly descended to the ground. The presence of these officers and the film crew suggested a level of preparedness and official interest that had never been publicly acknowledged. This dramatic version of events was brought to the public's attention in the documentary Capel Green. The film presented Warren's account as a direct challenge to the official story, suggesting that what the public had been told was merely a carefully constructed smokescreen. According to this narrative, the real confrontation with the unknown was far more dramatic, involving not just fleeting lights in the forest, but a full-scale landing and direct military involvement. If Warren's account is to be believed, the implications are staggering. It would mean that there were not one, but two separate landings, each with its own set of witnesses, each meticulously documented by military personnel. The level of military involvement, as described by Warren, was far greater than anything previously admitted. Coordinated teams, vehicles and equipment converged on multiple sites, suggesting a response that was both rapid and highly organized. The idea that a large, glowing craft could land so close to a nuclear base, under the watchful eyes of trained military personnel, is almost beyond belief. The security implications alone are immense. If such an event truly occurred, it would have triggered the highest levels of alert and secrecy, with every effort made to contain the incident and prevent any information from leaking to the outside world. Yet, despite these extraordinary claims, no physical evidence has ever surfaced. The supposed film footage, if it was ever recorded, remains hidden from public view. Some believe it is locked away in secret archives, while others suspect it may have been destroyed to protect national security. All that remains are the memories and testimonies of those who say they were there. Accounts that are as vivid as they are controversial. The Capel Green account has added a new layer of intrigue and controversy to the already complex Rendlesham legend. It challenges everything that was previously accepted about those nights, forcing both skeptics and believers to reconsider what they thought they knew. The story now includes not just mysterious lights, but a full-scale landing, official documentation, and a level of secrecy that raises more questions than answers. To this day, the events at Capel Green remain the subject of fierce debate. Was there truly a second landing, witnessed and recorded by military personnel? Or is this just another twist in a story already shrouded in mystery and speculation? The truth, it seems, remains just out of reach, hidden in the shadows of the forest and the memories of those who served. Among the most astonishing and controversial claims to emerge from the Rendlesham incident is that of Larry Warren, a young airman stationed at the base, who insists that he saw non-human beings step out of the landed craft at Capel Green. The night was thick with tension, the air heavy and cold, as Warren and his fellow servicemen moved cautiously through the dense undergrowth. The forest was shrouded in darkness, the only illumination coming from the strange, pulsating glow that seemed to seep through the trees. Warren, standing among the gnarled trunks and tangled branches, suddenly noticed movement near the glowing object. His heart pounded in his chest as he strained to see through the shadows, every sense heightened by adrenaline and fear. He describes 3 small figures emerging from the craft, their forms illuminated by the unearthly light. Their skin, Warren recalls, was almost translucent, as if made of some delicate material that shimmered in the darkness. Their heads were large and smooth, with enormous obsidian black eyes that seemed to absorb the very darkness around them. These beings moved with a grace that defied explanation, gliding effortlessly around the metallic hull of the craft. Their movements were smooth and silent, as if gravity itself had little hold on them, and they appeared to communicate with each other through subtle gestures and glances, never uttering a sound. Warren was not alone in his terror and awe. Standing beside him was fellow soldier Adrian Bustinza, both men frozen in place, barely daring to breathe as they watched the beings move with purpose and coordination. The rigorous training they had received as military personnel offered no preparation for this moment. The forest, usually alive with the sounds of nocturnal creatures, was now eerily silent, the only sound a faint, low hum emanating from the craft itself. Every detail of the scene was burned into Warren's memory. The cold air, the smell of damp earth, the way the light from the craft cast long, shifting shadows across the ground. According to Warren, the extraordinary scene soon attracted the attention of British police officers, who arrived at the edge of the clearing, cameras in hand, ready to document what was unfolding before them. The officers, their faces a mixture of disbelief and determination, attempted to capture photographic evidence of the craft and its occupants. But before they could take a single picture, American military personnel intervened, moving quickly and decisively. The soldiers confiscated all photographic equipment, their actions swift and unyielding, leaving the British officers frustrated and empty-handed, unable to prove what they had witnessed. The encounter, though it lasted only a few minutes, left a profound and lasting impact on those present. Warren remembers the overwhelming sense of awe and fear, the feeling that reality itself had shifted in those brief moments. He would later describe how, After the event, he sat alone in the darkness, trying to process what he had seen, his mind racing with questions and doubts. The memory of the beings, their silent movements, their unblinking eyes, would haunt him for years to come. Warren's account has sparked heated debate, even among other witnesses who were present that night. Some question the details of his story, pointing to inconsistencies or gaps in memory, while others are haunted by their own memories, fragments of images and sensations they cannot fully explain. The story has divided those who were there, with skepticism and belief clashing in every retelling, each man wrestling with his own version of the truth. Despite the controversy and the doubts of others, Warren remains steadfast in his account. He points to his successful polygraph test as proof of his sincerity, and recounts his experience with unwavering conviction, determined to have his truth heard. In interviews and public appearances, he describes the events of that night in vivid detail, never wavering in his belief that what he saw was real. If Warren's testimony is accurate, the Rendlesham incident is not merely a case of unidentified lights in the sky, but a direct encounter with beings from beyond our world. The implications are staggering, suggesting that humanity may not be alone, and that contact with non-human intelligence has already occurred, hidden in the shadows of a quiet English forest. The claim of seeing actual entities is the most controversial and extraordinary aspect of the entire event. It challenges the boundaries of what we consider possible, forcing those who hear it to confront the limits of their own understanding. For some, it is a story too incredible to believe. For others, it is a glimpse into a reality far stranger than fiction. This account shifts the story from unexplained lights to the possibility of contact with a non-human intelligence, raising questions that reach far beyond the boundaries of Rendlesham Forest. What did these beings want? Why did they choose that place, that night? The answers remain elusive, hidden behind a veil of secrecy and disbelief. The truth remains elusive, hidden in the shadows of the forest, waiting for those willing to seek it. For Larry Warren and the men who stood with him that night, the memory endures. A mystery that refuses to fade, a question that lingers in the cold, silent woods of Rendlesham. The Rendlesham case is a labyrinth of conflicting testimonies, each account weaving a new thread into the tangled fabric of the mystery. In the days and weeks following the incident, witnesses, most of them military men, trained to observe and report with precision, were summoned for questioning in stark, echoing rooms. Some described seeing strange, pulsating lights darting through the dense forest, illuminating the trunks of ancient trees with an otherworldly glow. Others, however, insisted that the night was uneventful, that nothing out of the ordinary had disturbed the stillness. The stories often clashed, with details shifting and evolving depending on who was speaking, the time of day, or even the mood in the room. One man might recall a metallic object hovering silently above the ground, while another would swear he saw only shadows and wind-blown branches. Colonel Halt, a central figure in the unfolding drama, publicly questioned the presence of Larry Warren and the accuracy of his recollections. In tense briefings and under the harsh glare of press conference lights, other officers voiced their doubts as well, sometimes challenging each other in front of the assembled media. These disagreements spilled out from behind closed doors, becoming public spectacles that only fueled rumors and deepened the sense of confusion. The air was thick with suspicion, as if every word spoken might be twisted or used as ammunition in a battle for the truth. The divisions among the witnesses grew sharper with each retelling. Some men accused their fellow servicemen of exaggeration, or even outright fabrication, their voices rising in frustration during late-night arguments. A few, perhaps fearing the consequences of speaking out, chose silence, their refusal to talk casting long shadows over the investigation. With every new statement, the truth seemed to slip further away, like mist in the early morning, impossible to grasp. Some have suggested that this confusion was not a matter of chance. Whispers began to circulate among the ranks, rumors of a deliberate campaign to discredit witnesses, to muddy the waters until no one could be sure of what had really happened. In hushed conversations behind closed doors, men speculated that the more the stories clashed, the easier it became for those in power to dismiss the entire incident as unreliable, a collection of tall tales and nervous imaginings. Official responses did little to dispel the growing fog of uncertainty. Press conferences were called, but the answers given were vague, evasive, and often contradictory. Reporters pressed for details, but the men at the podium, faces set in stone, offered only rehearsed statements and empty reassurances. Each non-answer left the public and the press with more questions than before, and the sense of unease grew. The British Ministry of Defence, when pressed, dismissed the entire incident as a simple misidentification, a trick of the light, nothing more than a lighthouse beam cutting through the darkness. The United States Air Force, for its part, went even further, denying that anything unusual had occurred at all. These official denials stood in stark contrast to the detailed, often emotional accounts given by the men who had been there, men who insisted that what they saw could not be explained away so easily. For those who claimed to have seen the objects up close, the official explanations were nothing short of insulting. The idea that trained military personnel, men accustomed to identifying aircraft, satellites, and every manner of light in the night sky, could mistake a distant lighthouse for a craft of unknown origin was to them absurd. Their frustration simmered beneath the surface, visible in clenched jaws and narrowed eyes. The official silence and repeated denials only fueled suspicions of a cover-up. Files were locked away in secure cabinets, stamped with government seals. Requests for information were met with stonewalling, or with documents so heavily redacted that they were nearly useless. The sense of something being hidden grew stronger with every unanswered question. The question lingered in the air, unspoken but ever present. Why would two governments refuse to acknowledge credible military testimony about a potential security breach at a nuclear base? The lack of transparency, the refusal to engage with the evidence, only made the public more suspicious, and the men who had witnessed the events more determined to seek the truth. The refusal to seriously address the evidence remains, for many, the most troubling aspect of the Rendlesham case. It is not the strange lights in the forest, nor the conflicting stories, but the persistent denial and the wall of silence that have become the real mystery, one that continues to haunt those who were there, and all who seek answers. The Rendlesham case stands apart for its rare and tangible collection of physical and audio evidence, fragments of a mystery preserved in tape, trace, and testimony. Unlike so many other unexplained encounters, here the story is not just told in whispers, but in the hard, cold artifacts left behind. On a frigid December night, deep in the Suffolk woods, Colonel Halt's voice crackled onto a reel-to-reel tape. The recording captured the tense, real-time reactions of military men as they moved through the darkness, their breath visible in the cold air, flashlights sweeping across the undergrowth. The tape is filled with urgent whispers, the static of uncertainty, and the clipped, professional tones of men trained to face the unknown. It remains one of the most direct and unfiltered windows into the event, an audio time capsule of confusion, awe, and fear. As dawn broke, investigators, boots sinking into the damp, leaf-strewn earth, discovered 3 distinct triangular depressions pressed deep into the forest floor. The marks were sharp-edged, as if something impossibly heavy and unearthly had landed with precision. Around the site, tree trunks were charred and the undergrowth scorched, the air still tinged with the acrid scent of burned wood. These physical traces hinted at a force beyond the ordinary, something that had left its mark not just on memory but on the land itself. Instruments were brought in, Geiger counters, their dials trembling as they swept across the landing site. The readings were far above the background norm, the needle jumping with every pass over the depressions and scorched earth. Each measurement was meticulously logged, adding a scientific edge to the growing sense of unease. The numbers told a story that words could not. Something had happened here, something that left a measurable, invisible residue. In the aftermath, Sergeant Jim Penniston sat down, his hands steady despite the adrenaline still coursing through his veins. He began to sketch what he had seen, a craft of unknown origin, its surface marked with strange geometric symbols. Each line and curve was an attempt to capture the impossible, to translate a fleeting vision into something permanent. The sketches became a visual record, a bridge between the unexplainable and the tangible. Later, Penniston would claim that, during his encounter, he received a telepathic download of binary code, a sequence of ones and zeros that flooded his mind. He painstakingly transcribed the code, convinced it held a message from beyond. The meaning of this code remains a subject of heated debate, with some believing it to be a key to understanding the event, and others dismissing it as a product of stress and suggestion. These claims, and the evidence itself, have sparked fierce arguments among experts and skeptics alike. In meeting rooms and interviews, voices are raised, hands gesture emphatically, and faces tighten with skepticism or conviction. Each side searches for the truth in a fog of uncertainty, unwilling to yield ground. Yet, the most tantalizing piece of evidence is the rumored Capel Green landing film, a reel said to have captured the event as it unfolded. The film, if it exists, would be a silent witness, its frames holding answers that words and memories cannot. The canisters, labeled and mysterious, have become objects of obsession for those seeking the truth. According to some, this film was swiftly confiscated by authorities, locked away in a secure facility, and never released to the public. Its existence is whispered about in classified documents, its fate discussed in guarded conversations behind closed doors. The film has become a symbol of the secrets that surround the case. If the film truly exists, it could be the definitive proof, an unblinking witness to the extraordinary. But for now, it remains missing. A blank space in the archive. A story told only in shadows and speculation. Investigators search through empty shelves, the spotlight falling on what is not there. In its absence, we are left with muddy footprints pressed into the forest floor, the solemn words of witnesses delivered in dimly lit rooms, and interviews conducted under the heavy weight of secrecy. Each statement is a piece of a puzzle, offered with caution and sometimes fear. The files are thick with unanswered questions, the evidence board a web of connections that never quite resolve. Investigators pore over documents, their brows furrowed, searching for a pattern that remains just out of reach. The physical evidence is compelling, yet always incomplete, each item a fragment of a puzzle that refuses to be solved. Forensic scientists and investigators handle the artifacts with care, aware that every detail could be crucial, yet knowing that the full picture remains elusive. The lost film has become a legend within a legend, its absence haunting every investigation. Old headlines speak of the missing reel, and in abandoned archives, dusty canisters and locked boxes fuel speculation. The story of the film grows with every retelling, becoming part of the mythos of Rendlesham itself. Perhaps, somewhere behind a locked vault door in a high-security archive, the truth still waits, silent, unseen, and sealed away from the world. Until that door opens, the Rendlesham mystery endures, its secrets kept in the dark, waiting for the day when the final piece of evidence is revealed. More than 40 years have slipped by since the mysterious events unfolded in Rendlesham Forest, yet the story refuses to fade into obscurity. Instead, it continues to cast a long, enigmatic shadow over the world of unexplained phenomena. The forest itself, shrouded in the pale mist of early morning, stands as a silent sentinel, a living witness to a night that forever altered the way Britain, and indeed the world, perceives the unknown. The trees, ancient and towering, seem to hold their breath, as if guarding secrets whispered only to those who dare to listen. Today, Rendlesham Forest has transformed into a destination for seekers of truth and skeptics alike. Men from all walks of life travel to this storied woodland, following the marked UFO trail that winds through the undergrowth. They retrace the footsteps of those who, decades ago, encountered the inexplicable beneath the cold December sky. At the heart of a quiet clearing, a metal sculpture, shaped like the mysterious craft described by witnesses, marks the alleged landing site. Here, visitors pause, some in silent contemplation, others in animated debate, all drawn together by the enduring mystery. The incident has inspired a vast array of documentaries, books, and news reports, each adding new layers to the legend. Newspapers from across the decades display bold headlines, their pages yellowed with age, while living rooms glow with the flicker of television screens as new generations of men discover the mystery for themselves. Fathers and sons gather to watch, their faces illuminated by the shifting light, as they discuss theories and possibilities late into the night. The Rendlesham case has become a rallying point for those demanding government transparency. Across the globe, men gather in front of iconic landmarks, holding signs and calling for answers. Their voices rise in unison, urging officials to reveal what they know about unidentified aerial phenomena, determined that the truth should not remain hidden behind closed doors. Recent admissions by the United States government regarding unidentified aerial phenomena have breathed new life into the Rendlesham story. What was once dismissed as fantasy now seems plausible, as official reports acknowledge that the skies may indeed hold secrets yet to be understood. The halls of power, once silent on the matter, now echo with cautious admissions, fueling renewed interest and debate. The men who witnessed the events, now older, their faces marked by the passage of time, remain steadfast in their accounts. They sit before cameras, their voices steady and unwavering, determined that their experiences will not be forgotten or dismissed. Each recollection is delivered with the weight of memory, as they recount the strange lights, the inexplicable sensations, and the sense that something extraordinary had occurred. The strange lights that danced among the trees continue to haunt the imagination. The forest at night, cloaked in fog and shadow, seems to whisper of secrets just beyond the reach of understanding. Men who walk these paths after dark often pause, listening for the faintest echo of that fateful night, their minds alive with questions that have never been answered. The question lingers, persistent and unresolved. Did the United States Air Force personnel, tasked with guarding nuclear weapons, truly encounter something beyond human comprehension? These men, trained to remain vigilant and composed under pressure, found themselves facing an enigma that defied all logic. Their discipline and courage were put to the ultimate test on that cold December night, as they confronted the unknown with only their training and instincts to guide them. Until every piece of evidence is brought to light, the glowing orbs that once weaved through the trees will remain a source of fascination and speculation. Around campfires and in quiet pubs, men debate the possibilities, their voices rising and falling as they weigh the facts and the unknown. The legend endures, fueling endless debate among believers and doubters alike. The mystery endures, a powerful reminder of how much remains unknown. As the sun sets over the silent paths of Rendlesham, the search for truth continues, driven by curiosity, skepticism, and the enduring hope that one day, the answers will finally emerge from the shadows. The forest, timeless and enigmatic, waits patiently, its secrets still hidden beneath the canopy, as men from around the world continue their quest for understanding. Decades have passed, yet the enigma of Rendlesham Forest refuses to fade quietly into history. The woods, shrouded in mist and shadow, still seem to whisper secrets as night falls, drawing curious minds back to the heart of the mystery. In recent years, new evidence and bold theories have reignited heated debates among researchers and enthusiasts. Around tables scattered with files and in offices filled with animated discussion, the search for answers has only grown more intense. Documents once locked away in military vaults for decades have finally come to light. Some reveal mission logs and radar data from those fateful nights, their faded ink hinting at stories long kept from the public eye. Analysts pore over these faded prints, tracing strange marks on aerial photographs and scrutinizing every detail with magnifying glasses. The meaning of these anomalies, unusual blips and patterns above the forest, remains fiercely contested, fueling further speculation. Meanwhile, retired military personnel have stepped forward, sharing new testimonies that add fresh layers to the puzzle. Their voices, steady with age and experience, recount events that still haunt their memories. One former radar operator, standing among shelves of vintage equipment, describes witnessing an object moving at impossible speeds, then vanishing from the screen without a trace or explanation. His account, detailed and unwavering, leaves listeners with more questions than answers. Another, a security officer, reveals a hand-drawn map he kept hidden for decades. The map, marked with several locations, points to multiple sites where strange traces were found in the earth, evidence that the phenomenon was not isolated to a single spot. Amid these revelations, a controversial theory has gained traction. Was the incident a covert test of advanced technology, conducted without the knowledge of the base's own personnel? The idea stirs both skepticism and intrigue, casting a new light on old suspicions. Skeptics present blueprints of experimental aircraft from that era, comparing them to witness sketches. Yet, believers point to the striking consistency in the testimonies, insisting that the lights and objects described were unlike anything engineered by human hands. Old military footage flickers on the screen. Groups of men in uniform, gathered in dimly lit rooms, discussing the possibility of psychological warfare experiments. Their serious faces betray the weight of the secrets they carry. Was the entire event an elaborate ruse, designed to test the reactions of well-trained soldiers under extreme pressure? The question lingers, as footage shows men enduring psychological tests, their responses closely observed by superiors. Or does the truth lie elsewhere, in a realm of phenomena that defy all conventional explanation? The forest, cloaked in fog and illuminated by mysterious lights, seems to guard its secrets jealously. Each new piece of evidence raises as many questions as it answers. Investigators, surrounded by notes and photographs, scribble new queries in their notebooks, determined to chase every lead. Deep within Rendlesham Forest, a recent discovery has only deepened the mystery. A small metallic object, unearthed by a local researcher with a metal detector. Its surface is strange, its origin unknown. Laboratory analysis reveals no known origin for the alloy. Its composition does not match any familiar metal. This finding only adds to the divide between those who believe the answer lies on Earth and those who suspect something otherworldly. As night once again descends upon the ancient trees, the Rendlesham case stands at a crossroads, caught between the rigor of science and the allure of speculation. For every answer uncovered, new riddles emerge, ensuring that the search for truth will continue for generations to come. The forest keeps its secrets, and the story is far from over. As dawn broke over Rendlesham Forest, a heavy silence settled once more among the ancient trees. Yet, the events of that mysterious December night lingered, their echoes stretching far beyond the shadowy borders of the woods. The forest, shrouded in mist and secrecy, seemed to hold its breath, as if reluctant to let go of the secrets it had witnessed. The impact of that night rippled outward, touching the nearby towns and the countryside, unsettling the calm of daily life. In the weeks and months that followed, time seemed to move both quickly and slowly. The calendar pages turned, and the soldiers stationed at the base resumed their routines, marching through the cold, frost-laden mornings. On the surface, life at the base returned to normal. Trucks rumbled along the gravel paths, and men gathered for roll call, their faces set in practiced stoicism. But beneath the routine, a current of unease ran through the ranks. In the barracks, soldiers sat quietly, their eyes darting, their conversations clipped and cautious. Behind closed doors, whispers replaced laughter. Men spoke in hushed tones, always glancing over their shoulders, as if the very walls might be listening. Tension hung in the air. Every sideways glance, every unfinished sentence, hinted at the shared anxiety that no one dared name aloud. Some officers were quietly transferred, their departures unannounced. They left behind empty bunks and unanswered questions, never speaking of what they had seen. Others became obsessed, poring over hastily drawn sketches and scribbled notes, trying to make sense of the chaos that had invaded their ordered world. They searched for patterns in the confusion, hoping that somewhere in the mess of reports and diagrams, an answer might be found. Word of the strange events began to seep out, first as rumors whispered in the dim corners of local cafes. In the pubs and coffee shops, men leaned in close, sharing stories in low voices, their eyes wide with speculation. Soon, the whispers became headlines. Sensational stories splashed across the pages of tabloid newspapers, each headline more dramatic than the last. The British public, already on edge from the ever-present threat of the Cold War, found themselves captivated by the unfolding mystery. Radio call-in shows buzzed with speculation. Listeners from across the country phoned in, eager to share their theories and fears. Some were convinced it was a Soviet incursion, a secret test of enemy technology lurking in the English woods. Others were certain the answer lay far beyond Earth, pointing to the skies and declaring the truth to be extraterrestrial. Amateur investigators descended on the forest, armed with Geiger counters, cameras, and a burning desire to uncover the truth. They swept the undergrowth, scanning for radiation, snapping photos of every broken branch and scorched patch of earth. Every discovery, no matter how small, was treated as a potential clue, a piece of the puzzle that might finally explain the unexplainable. Within military circles, the incident became an uneasy legend. Training manuals were quietly updated, and new protocols for reporting unidentified aerial phenomena were introduced. Officers briefed their men behind closed doors, emphasizing the importance of vigilance and discretion. Some senior officers dismissed the entire affair as mass hysteria or simple misperception, but a few, in private, admitted that what happened in Rendlesham defied easy explanation. Behind locked doors, confidential reports were filed away, and men stared out windows, haunted by memories they could not share. Decades later, the shadow of those nights still lingers. Old photographs and yellowed newspaper clippings resurface, reigniting debates and memories. Each year, veterans gather in the forest, retracing their steps along the old trails, their faces marked by time and experience. They walk in silence, pausing in the places where the extraordinary once broke into the ordinary, remembering what cannot be forgotten. For the believers, Rendlesham is a landmark, a case that refuses to fade, a reminder that the world is still full of mysteries. The forest stands as a silent testament to the unknown, challenging all who visit to question the limits of their understanding. For the skeptics, it is a lesson in the power of suggestion, the psychology of groups, and the endless allure of the unexplained. The Rendlesham Forest incident has become more than a footnote in military history. It has entered the public imagination, inspiring books, documentaries, and endless debate. Whether it is a cautionary tale, a genuine encounter, or an unsolved riddle, its story continues to shape how we think about the unexplained. Its echoes still resonate, urging us to confront the boundaries of our knowledge, and the mysteries that lie just beyond our grasp. In the end, Rendlesham reminds us that the world is vast, and that sometimes, the greatest mysteries are those that remain unsolved. As the mist settled once more over the quiet expanse of Rendlesham Forest, the echoes of the December 1980 incident lingered in the minds of those stationed nearby. The military, shaken by the mysterious events, found itself at a crossroads, determined never to be caught off guard again. Behind the fortified walls of the base, senior officers convened in a series of confidential meetings. The air was thick with tension, as every detail of the incident was scrutinized, from the first strange lights to the final, uneasy silence that followed. Their mission was clear: to ensure that no such anomaly would ever catch them unprepared again. The officers, faces set with resolve, pored over reports and debated new strategies late into the night. Almost immediately, a wave of new protocols swept through the ranks, distributed with urgency and precision. The standard procedures for identifying and reporting unidentified aerial phenomena were overhauled. Manuals were rewritten, and every soldier was briefed on the new expectations. The initial steps of surveillance became far more rigorous. Radar operators and security teams were instructed to document every anomaly with meticulous care, logging data that previously might have been dismissed as irrelevant. Soldiers underwent specialized training, learning to record every aspect of an encounter: the trajectory of the object, its speed, its behavior, and even the emotional responses of those who witnessed it. Nothing was left to chance. Break tie. Specialized units were formed, their sole purpose to investigate these aerial mysteries. These teams were composed of the most disciplined and analytical minds the military could assemble. Outfitted with cutting-edge technology, these units deployed high-resolution cameras, electromagnetic sensors, and radiation detectors, tools designed to capture every possible clue, from visual evidence to invisible disturbances. Their task was not only to gather evidence, but to analyze it with scientific rigor. In sterile labs, analysts pored over samples and data, determined to leave no room for doubt or speculation. Break time. 25. At the heart of these sweeping changes was a new classification system for UFO sightings. Incidents were now categorized by threat level and the credibility of witnesses. Each report was logged, sorted, and prioritized with a level of detail never before seen in military records. This system allowed commanders to allocate resources efficiently, ensuring that the most urgent and credible cases received immediate attention. The Rendlesham incident also forced a re-evaluation of the chain of command during such extraordinary events. It was decided that any future encounters would be reported directly to the highest authorities, bypassing the usual bureaucratic channels. This ensured a swift, coordinated response and minimized the risk of confusion or miscommunication. The new protocols demanded rapid mobilization and clear communication, with response teams ready to act at a moment's notice. Beyond the walls of the base, the military began to quietly collaborate with civilian organizations dedicated to the study of unidentified aerial phenomena. Though these partnerships remained out of the public eye, they enabled the exchange of data and expertise, bridging the gap between official investigations and independent research. Yet, beneath the surface, skepticism persisted. Not everyone in the upper echelons of command was convinced. Some senior officials viewed the new measures as excessive, interpreting the Rendlesham events as misunderstandings or psychological phenomena rather than genuine threats. Still, even the most doubtful could not entirely dismiss the unsettling implications of what had transpired. Over time, the impact of these changes rippled beyond the military itself. Increased transparency and the introduction of new investigative procedures began to shape public perception. Press conferences and official statements signaled a new era of openness. The public, once quick to dismiss or sensationalize UFO sightings, now approached the subject with a more critical and informed perspective, recognizing the complexity and seriousness with which the military now treated such reports. In the end, the Rendlesham Forest incident left an indelible mark, not only on military protocols but on the entire field of UFO investigation. It became a catalyst for change, driving the development of new methods and encouraging a more precise, less scientific approach to the unknown. And while the true nature of what happened that night may never be fully understood, its legacy continues to shape our understanding of the skies above. After the events in Rendlesham Forest, the scientific community found itself thrust into the heart of a heated debate. The incident, shrouded in mystery and speculation, demanded a rigorous, methodical response from those dedicated to uncovering the truth. Researchers from a wide array of disciplines, astronomy, meteorology, psychology, and physics, gathered to scrutinize every detail reported about the incident. Each scientist brought his own expertise, determined to separate the extraordinary claims from verifiable facts. Their mission was clear: to sift through the accounts, analyze the evidence, and distinguish between what could be proven and what belonged to the realm of speculation. In the laboratories, they conducted meticulous analyses on soil samples collected from the very spot where the mysterious object was said to have landed. Every grain of earth was examined for anomalies. The scientists searched for traces of radiation, scanning for any sign that might suggest a visitation from another world. They tested for chemical residues, unusual isotopes, and anything that could not be explained by known earthly processes. Yet, the results were inconclusive. The data did not point definitively to anything out of the ordinary. Some readings showed minor deviations from the norm, but the specialists explained that such fluctuations could easily be attributed to environmental factors or remnants of previous military activity in the area. Meanwhile, meteorological experts delved into the weather records for those December nights in 1980, determined to reconstruct the atmospheric conditions that might have influenced what was seen and felt. They discovered that the weather, biting cold, thick fog, and the presence of a nearby lighthouse could have easily deceived the senses, creating optical illusions that might be mistaken for strange lights or unidentified flying objects. Psychologists also joined the investigation, eager to understand the human element behind the reports. They explored the effects of stress, fatigue, and group dynamics on the men present during those tense nights, considering how heightened alertness and suggestion could shape collective memory. The psychologists concluded that, in a high-pressure environment, with nerves on edge and imaginations primed, it was possible for misunderstandings to spread and memories to become exaggerated over time. The skeptics pointed to the lack of physical evidence, no clear photographs, no recovered objects, and no uncontested radar data. They argued that extraordinary claims require extraordinary proof, and so far, the Rendlesham case had produced more questions than answers. Yet, not every scientist dismissed the reports outright. Some insisted that the consistency of the testimonies and the sincerity of the witnesses warranted further investigation. They called for an open-minded approach, but cautioned against drawing conclusions without robust data to support them. In the end, scientific analysis brought a grounded perspective to the enigma. The Rendlesham Forest incident remained a puzzle, a challenge to the boundaries between belief and evidence, between what is known and what remains unknown. For every theory that tried to explain the event, another question emerged, ensuring that the debate continued in laboratories and lecture halls, where the search for answers endures. The echoes of the Rendlesham Forest incident have lingered far beyond the fading footprints lost among the fallen leaves. This story, born in the cold shadows of a Suffolk woodland, has woven itself into the very fabric of popular culture, its influence stretching across decades and continents. Over the years, the strange events of those nights have inspired countless television shows, films, and books. The Rendlesham mystery didn't just shape conspiracy theories. It helped define the language of the unknown in entertainment, from flickering black and white TV screens to the pages of dog-eared paperbacks. Newspaper headlines blazed with speculation, their bold print fueling the public's imagination. Soon, documentaries began dissecting the events frame by frame, searching for answers in every shadow and every whispered testimony. Major networks produced dramatic reenactments, their faceless actors moving through pools of light and darkness, heightening the sense of mystery and drawing viewers deeper into the enigma. Rendlesham became a touchstone in UFO lore, referenced in television series, radio broadcasts, and even comic books. Its story retold and reimagined for each new audience. The unique blend of credible witnesses, official documents, and unanswered questions proved irresistible to screenwriters and storytellers, all searching for the next great mystery to unravel. Over the years, podcasts and YouTube channels have dedicated countless hours to analyzing every detail, from the supposed landing marks to the eerie audio recordings captured in the forest. The Rendlesham effect can be seen in the shadowy government agents of science fiction films, the haunted forests of video games, and the visual language of mysterious lights drifting across the night sky. Museums and local tours have capitalized on the enduring mystery, drawing visitors eager to glimpse the unknown, to stand where the story began, and to imagine what might have happened beneath those ancient trees. Artists have reimagined the glowing orbs and silent craft, their works displayed in galleries and shared widely online, each piece a new interpretation of the legend. Even skeptics, in their efforts to debunk the tale, have added to its mythos, ensuring the story is retold, re-examined, and never fully forgotten. With every retelling, the Rendlesham incident has become more than a military mystery. It has become a symbol, a cultural code for the limits of human understanding and the allure of the unexplained. In the world of popular media, its shadow still lingers, inviting each new generation to peer into the darkness and wonder what might be waiting just beyond the trees. في الوقت اللي حادثت غابة رندلشام، ألهمت قصص خيالية وكثرت التكهنات حواليها. في قصة تانية كانت بتحصل بهدوء، قصة بيقودها ناس مصممين يكشفوا الحقائق. من أول الأيام اللي بعد الحادثة، فرق من المحققين المستقلين، من أول أفراد متقاعدين من القوات الجوية لحد باحثين مدنيين مخضرمين في الأطباق الطايرة، فحصوا كل تفصيلة متاحة. طريقتهم كانت منهجية، بيقابلوا الشهود، بيحللوا عينات التربة، وبيدقوا في التسجيلات الصوتية عشان يلاقوا أي تناقضات أو أدلة القنوات الرسمية ممكن تكون فوتتها. في السنين اللي فاتت، وثائق اتفك حظر سريتها، وشهادات شخصية بدأت تظهر للعلن، وكل دليل جديد كان بيضيف طبقة تانية للغز. الباحثين المدنيين درسوا سجلات الطيران وتقارير الطقس وبيانات الرادار، بيدوروا على أي حاجة غريبة ممكن تأكد حكايات الأضواء الغريبة والمركبات اللي مش مفهومة. بعض المحققين حتى أعادوا بناء المشهد بتفاصيل دقيقة جدا، رسموا أماكن الأشجار والمعالم ومواقع الهبوط اللي تقال عنها. رسوماتهم وتقاريرهم اللي غالبا كانت بتتنشر في مجلات متخصصة أو بتتقدم في مؤتمرات بقت قراية أساسية لأي حد بيدور على الفصل بين الحقيقة والخيال. خبراء فنيين انضموا للمجهود ده وقدموا رؤية جديدة ودقة علمية. حللوا التسجيلات الصوتية الشهيرة عشان يلاقوا أي علامات توتر أو خداع في أصوات أفراد الجيش. وناس تانية فحصت الآثار المادية اللي اتثابت وراها، زي العلامات في الأرض وقراءات الإشعاع والفروع المكسورة، بيدوروا على تفسير أرضي. المتشككين والمؤمنين على حد سواء ساهموا في أرشيف بيانات بيجبر باستمرار. كل واحد فيهم كان بيتمنى يرجح الكفة ناحية إجابة قاطعة. بعض العسكريين السابقين اللي الوقت شجعهم أو حس الواجب دفعهم اختاروا يكسروا صمتهم. حكوا تجاربهم وهم متخفيين أو في حالات نادرة، ظهروا للعلن عشان يشاركوا اللي شافوه وسمعوه وحسوا خلال الليالي المتوترة دي. حكاياتهم اللي ساعات كانت بتأكد تقارير سابقة وساعات بتناقضها أضافت أبعاد جديدة للغز. على مدار عقود من البحث الدؤوب، المحققين دول حافظوا على الأسئلة حية. إيه اللي حصل بالظبط في الغابة؟ هل كانت تجربة عسكرية سرية ولا ظاهرة طبيعية اتفهمت غلط ولا حاجة مش من عالمنا ده؟ البحث عن الحقيقة لسه مستمر، مش مدفوع بالإثارة لكن بفضول لا يلين، رغبة في كشف المجهول مهما كانت الأدلة ممكن توصل لفين. مع استمرار البحث عن إجابات ظهرت زاوية جديدة، زاوية امتدت إلى ما هو أبعد من حدود غابة رندلشام وحتى المملكة المتحدة نفسها. في السنوات اللي بعد الحادثة، عدد قليل من المحققين المثابرين وجهوا انتباههم للسماء، بيدوروا على أدلة من الحراس الصامتين اللي بيدوروا فوقينا، الأقمار الصناعية. في فترة الحرب الباردة، الكتلتين الغربية والشرقية كان عندهم شبكات كبيرة من أقمار التجسس الصناعية، بيراقبوا باستمرار المنشآت العسكرية والمناطق الساخنة المحتملة حوالين العالم. رندلشام اللي كانت قريبة من قاعدة جوية رئيسية لحلف الناتو ما كانتش استثناء. بعض الباحثين خمنوا إنه لو حصل أي حاجة خارقة للعادة في الغابة في ليلة ديسمبر دي، ممكن تكون اتسجلت مش بس بواسطة شهود بشريين، لكن كمان بواسطة العيون اللي ما بتطرفش في السماء. Break time point hums. طلبات حرية المعلومات والوثائق اللي اتفق حظر سريتها كشفت إنه في الليالي اللي حصلت فيها الأحداث دي، عدد من أقمار المراقبة الصناعية كانت بتعدي فوق سوفولك فعلا. المحللين درسوا بيانات المدارات المتاحة بدقة وربطوا توقيت مرور الأقمار الصناعية بالأحداث اللي اتسجلت على الأرض. دوروا على أي حاجة غريبة في السجلات، تغييرات في القراءات كهرومغناطيسية ومضات ضوء مش مفهومة أو انقطاعات في لقطات المراقبة العادية. ضباط المخابرات السابقين اللي طلعوا معاش قدموا رؤى عن قدرات وحدود التصوير بالأقمار الصناعية في الوقت ده، مع إن التكنولوجيا كانت أقل تطوراً بكثير من أنظمة الدقة العالية اللي موجودة دلوقتي، إلا إنها كانت لسه قادرة على اكتشاف أي نشاط غير عادي، خصوصاً في المناطق العسكرية الحساسة. بعضهم قالوا إنه حتى لو الأقمار الصناعية ما التقطتش الصور واضحة لمركبة هبطت، ممكن تكون سجلت بصمات حرارية أو ومضات مفاجئة أو تحركات مش مفهومة جوه الغابة. Break time point humphin. ده غير إن الحادثة دي لفتت انتباه محطات المراقبة الدولية، مشغلين الراديو وفنيين الرادار من دول الناتو الثانية، وحتى من حلف وارسو حسب التقارير راجعوا سجلاتهم عشان يشوفوا أي إشارات غير منتظمة أو أصداء رادار ممكن تتطابق مع الجدول الزمني لأحداث رندلشام. بالرغم من كل الجهود المكثفة، ما فيش أي صور أقمار صناعية أو معلومات استخباراتية إلكترونية متاحة للعامة اتنشرت أكدت وجود حدث خارق للعادة، لكن مجرد احتمال وجود آلة زي دي هو اللي غذى عقود من التكهنات. البعض بيعتقد إن البيانات المهمة لسه سرية ومحفوظة في أرشيفات الحكومة، في حين إن تانيين بيجادلوا إن الأقمار الصناعية ما شافتش أي حاجة خالص. لكن البحث مستمر. الباحثين المعاصرين اللي معاهم أدوات متطورة وشبكات عالمية بيستمروا في بحثهم عن القطعة الناقصة، على أمل إن في يوم من الأيام إطار محدش خدوا باله منه قبل كده أو ملف منسي هيكشف أخيرا عن اللي حصل بالظبط تحت المراقبة اليقظة للعيون اللي فوق. مع مرور السنين حدثت غابة رندلشام ما بقتش مجرد حكاية عن أضواء في الغابة، دي تحولت لشبكة معقدة من الأسرار وشهادات مكتم عليها وهمسات عن معلومات سرية. في الوقت اللي التصريحات الرسمية من السلطات العسكرية كانت دايما بتقلل من أهمية الأحداث، ظهرت رواية موازية بهدوء مدعومة بمصادر مجهولة ووثائق تم تعديلها بعناية وشجاعة عدد قليل من الأفراد اللي كانوا مستعدين يخاطروا بمستقبلهم المهني عشان الحقيقة. العسكريين السابقين اللي دلوقتي بقوا بعيد عن وظائفهم وقيود الانضباط العسكري بدأوا يلمحوا لتفاصيل عمرها ما ظهرت في التقارير الرسمية. البعض وصف أوامر مش مفهومة ونقل مفاجئ ووجود أفراد غرباء في القاعدة في الأيام اللي بعد الحادثة، وآخرين أشاروا لجلسات إحاطة كانت بتأكد على السرية التامة، مستخدمين بروتوكولات كانت أبعد من التعامل العادي مع المعلومات الحساسة. Break Time Wake Center. من وقت للتاني ظهرت مذكرات مسربة واتصالات تم اعتراضها، وصحة المعلومات دي كانت محل نقاش، بس محتواها كان مغري. كانوا بيتكلموا عن فرق خاصة جت بالطيران في جنح الظلام ومعدات بتتشال من الموقع وأشرطة بيانات بتختفي في خزائن مؤمنة. في محادثات غير رسمية ضباط المخابرات أشاروا لتصاريح حسب الحاجة للمعرفة، والمحوا إن القصة الحقيقية مدفونة تحت طبقات من السرية والتقسيم. نظريات المؤامرة والمحققين المخضرمين على حد سواء فحصوا الأجزاء دي بدقة، بيدوروا على أنماط في الصمت. هل وكالة غامضة أشرفت على اللي حصل بعد كده؟ هل تم إخفاء الأدلة مش بس عشان حماية الأمن القومي، لكن عشان إبقاء البشرية نفسها في الظلام؟ غياب الدليل القاطع بقى بشكل متناقض، نوع من الأدلة في حد ذاته، وقود للتكهنات بأن يد خفية كانت شغالة بتشكل الرواية من وراء الأبواب المقفلة. ورغم كل ده، الرجال اللي كانوا هناك، شرطة الأمن ومشغلي الرادار وحتى قادة القاعدة واجهوا اختيار صعب، يتكلموا ويخاطروا بالسخرية أو الانتقام، أو يفضلوا ساكتين ويسيبوا الغموض يستمر. لكل تفصيلة تسربت، عشرات التفاصيل التانية فضلت محبوسة في ملفات سرية وفي ذكريات اللي اقسموا على السرية. بريك تايم. مع مرور السنين صمت التكتم فضل ثابت، لكن حادثة رندلشام فضلت تجذب اللي مصممين يكسروا الصمت ده، محققين وصحفيين ومطلعين سابقين كلهم بيدوروا على الأجزاء الناقصة. في الظلال بين اللي معروف وبين اللي مخفي، الحقيقة مستنية. ملامحها بتوضح أكتر مع كل دليل جديد، لكنها دايما بعيدة عن متناول الإيد. في حين أن السجلات العامة وشهادات الشهود قد شكلت الرواية السائدة، إلا أن هناك كنزا ضخما من الملفات السرية لا يزال حبيسا ومحميا تحت طبقات من بروتوكولات الأمن القومي. لعقود من الزمن قدم الباحثون طلبات بموجب قانون حرية المعلومات للبحث عن لمحة واحدة وراء الستار. من حين لآخر يتم الإفراج عن وثائق محجوبة بشدة، صفحات معلمة بخطوط سوداء سميكة، وتفاصيل رئيسية غامضة، وتواريخ وأسماء مفقودة. ولكن بين الفجوات تظهر أنماط. بعض الملفات تشير إلى قراءات كهرومغناطيسية غير عادية سجلتها أجهزة القاعدة في الساعات الدقيقة للحادث. وتذكر أخرى النشر السريع لفرق مكافحة التجسس، وصولهم مسجل في سجلات أمن القاعدة، ولكن أنشطتهم محذوفة من الملخصات الرسمية. هناك تلميحات عن مستشارين علميين تم نقلهم جوا من منشآت بعيدة، ولم يتم تسجيل مؤهلاتهم أبدا في قوائم الموظفين الروتينية. في مذكرة واحدة رفعت عنها السرية، يطلب ضابط كبير تحليلا فوريا لعينات التربة والأشجار، مشيرا إلى خصائص شاذة. النتائج إن وجدت لا يمكن العثور عليها في أي مكان. تصف مجموعة من التقارير الفنية المجرة من السياق أعطالا في معدات الرادار والراديو، أنظمة تعطلت بشكل غير مفهوم خلال الليالي الحرجة. تظهر سجلات الصيانة نشاطا غير عادي، هوائيات أعيدت معايرتها، وأقراص الصلبة استبدلت، وبنوك بيانات كاملة محيت أو استبدلت في غضون أيام من الحدث. حتى سجلات الطيران للطائرات العسكرية في المنطقة تقدم شذوذا، فجوات غير مبررة، وإحداثيات معدلة، وإشارات مشفرة إلى عمليات خاصة. بالنسبة لأولئك المصممين على تجميع الحقيقة، تشكل هذه الشذرات المتناثرة فسيفساء من السرية. كل إغفال يثير أسئلة جديدة. هل كانت التكنولوجيا المتورطة تتجاوز فم علماء تلك الحقبة؟ هل تدخلت أعلى مستويات الحكومة مباشرة للسيطرة على تدفق المعلومات؟ والأهم من ذلك، ما هي الأدلة التي كمن في تلك المحفوظات غير المرئية، والتي لا تزال مخفية عن أنظار الجمهور؟ مع مرور السنين يستمر الأمل في أن تفتح الخزائن المقفلة يوما ما، وتظهر القصة الكاملة لريندلشام، ليس فقط كشائعة أو أسطورة، ولكن كتاريخ موثق. حتى ذلك الحين يظل الحادث معلقا بين الكشف والسرية، وأعمق إجاباته مختومة داخل المحفوظات غير المرئية. الملفات السرية لسه مقفولة، بس في حكاية تانية بتتكتب بهدوء، مش على ورق، دي محفورة في الذاكرة. الرجال اللي كانوا هناك في رندليشام فضلوا شايلينهم الليلة دي بتاعة شهر ديسمبر، حتى بعد ما الناس نسيت الموضوع. في منهم اللي التجربة دي خلته يدور على إجابات من غير ما يزهق، كأنه اللغز ناقصه حتت ومضايقهم في كل وقت. وناس تانية اللي أقدى عمل في حياتهم شرخ، قسم حياتهم لنصين قبل وبعد. بعد سنين العساكر اللي كانوا هناك بيحكوا عن أحلام بتجيلهم على طول، لمحات واضحة لأضواء قوية، وإحساس غريب بإن في وقت ضاع منهم. في منهم اللي بيوصف إحساس القلق ده، إنهم عارفين إن في حاجة مش عادية حصلت، بس مش عارفين يتكلموا عنها بصراحة بسبب السرية الرسمية والخوف من السخرية. تقارير كانت بتنتشر بهدوء بين العساكر القدامي، صداع مفاجئ، تعب مش مفهوم، وإحساس إن في حد بيراقبهم على طول. وفي مقابلات سرية كام واحد منهم اعترفوا إنهم حاسين بالوحدة، وإن مصداقيتهم كانت محل الشك حتى من زمايلهم القريبين. الضغط النفسي ده زاد بسبب الإنكار الرسمي ومسح أي دليل. كل ورقة اتشالت منها معلومات، وكل طلب مفيش عليه رد كان بيزود إحساسهم بالغربة. هايم 20 دليل. في منهم اللي لجأ لكتابة مذكرات شخصية يسجلوا فيها ذكرياتهم على أمل إن في يوم من الأيام الحقيقة تبان. وناس تانية بعدت عن الناس، خايفين من الاهتمام والجدل اللي لازم الموضوع ده. مع إن عدى عشرات السنين، شهود رندلشام لسه متأثرين بقربهم من المجهول ده. قصصهم اللي غالبا بتتحكي بصوت واطي أو وراء أبواب مقفولة بتبين الأثر اللي بيفضل موجود للغز متحلتش. مش بس على التاريخ، لا ده كمان على حياة ناس اتغيرت للأبد في الشتاء ده في الغابة. بينما كان الرجال في الأرض بيصارعوا المجهول، كان في قصة تانية بتتفتح ورا الأبواب المقفولة. قصة قيادة وقواعد وضغط بيزيد. في الأيام اللي بعد الحادثة لقى كبار الضباط في القاعدة نفسهم بين الواجب والغموض. التقارير كانت بتوصل لسلسلة القيادة، وكل تقرير كان أغرب من اللي قبله. اللغة كانت حذرة رسمية من غير أي مشاعر، لكن القلق اللي تحت الكلام كان واضح قوي. في الاجتماعات الخاصة الضباط القادة كانوا بيتناقشوا في خطواتهم الجاية. هل يوصلوا الموضوع للسلطات الأعلى ويخاطروا بالسخرية أو اللوم، ولا يحتووا القصة ويدوا أولوية لسمعة القاعدة وأمن العمليات؟ حمل المسؤولية كان ثقيل على كتافهم. كل قرار كان محسوب، وكل كلمة متدقق فيها. كانوا قدام معضلة، محتاجين يحموا رجالتهم، وفي نفس الوقت يحافظوا على السرية اللي بتطلبها القواعد العسكرية. الأوامر كانت بتتصدر بهدوء: أمنوا المنطقة، قابلوا الأفراد، سجلوا كل تفصيلة، لكن خلوا الدائرة ضيقة. بعض الضباط كانوا بيدعوا لتحقيق شامل ويطلبوا موارد وتحليل فني، وآخرين كانوا قلقانين من جذب انتباه مش مرغوب فيه وحسوا على الحذر، وحتى اقترحوا إن الحادثة دي تتصغر أو تتدفن في وراء الروتين. وراء الكواليس، التواصل مع وكالات المخابرات البريطانية والأمريكية بقى رقصا حساسة. القنوات الرسمية كانت مليانة رسائل مشفرة وطلبات معلومات وتلميحات خفيفة للقلق من القيادة العليا. القيادة فهمت إن المخاطر كانت أكبر من مجرد رؤية غريبة مش مفهومة. الحادثة كان ممكن تأثر مش بس على القاعدة، لكن كمان على العلاقات الدولية وثقة الناس. مع تحول الأيام لأسابيع، الضغط بس زاد. بعض الضباط بدأوا يشككوا في ذكرياتهم ويتساءلوا إذا كانت الأحداث الغريبة اللي حصلت في الغابة دي هتتفهم بجد ولا لا. وآخرين بصمت سجلوا شكوكهم واختاروا الولاء للمؤسسة على الفضول الشخصي. في النهاية، سلسلة القيادة فضلت سليمة، لكن التجربة سابت علامتها، شهادة صامتة على الأعباء اللي بيشيلها اللي مسؤولين عن القيادة في ظل المجهول.